Okay, good evening. We're going to call our meeting to order. And could you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Okay, Mrs. Sugars, could you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Sherfain,
Here.
Mrs. Gallagher,
Here.
Mr. Greenbaum,
Here.
Mr. Mayor,
Here.
Dr. Rude,
Here.
Mrs. Tong, Mrs. Winters,
Here.
Ms. Stern.
Here. Okay. We have a few items for board recognition tonight. So just very briefly, I first want to just wish folks who celebrate a happy Lunar New Year, because it's Lunar New Year this past weekend, and also recognize it's African American History Month. Make sure I get everything right. I'm sorry if I double check making sure I get it on my right. Okay. And I also want to make an exciting announcement. We have chosen our 9th board member. So I want to recognize Quadzia Niaz. I hope I said your name right, and congratulate you. So I want us all to give you a warm congratulations. So Ms. Niaz is in the process of getting everything situated that is required for us to get situated before you can be sworn in. And as soon as that has been completed, you will be able to be sworn in. So I just want to congratulate you, and we're very excited to serve with you. Okay, absolutely. Thank you. And I know we have some fantastic presenters tonight. So I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Morton.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Ms. Stern. We are very fortunate tonight to be graced with the presence of several multi-talented, outstanding young people from High School East, accompanied by Ms. Heather Lockhart and the wonderful cast members of Mean Girls, who are here tonight to do a preview of one of their numbers. Show opens up March 1st, and they're here tonight to preview that for us. So Ms. Lockhart, you can come to the microphone, and if you can set up this number. And then also I'm going to ask you before they're done for them to introduce themselves. They can tell us what part they're playing as well.
You got it. Well, I'll let them do all of the talking because they're
Beautiful.
excited.
All right.
I'm just going to move this over to the side if that's okay. Is this all right? Okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Charlotte Lemaire. I play Katie Heron, and I'm here with a lot of the cast tonight. If they would like, they can introduce themselves. We also thought it might be a little quicker because there are a few of us here. If I just quickly ran through it. So over here is Everett Garcia. He plays Aaron Samuels. Right over there is Asra Aslam. She plays Mrs. Norbury. And then kind of scattered throughout, we have a lot of the featured teenagers who have like a lot of lines, solo singing, everything. We also have Karen joining us, who is Natalie Borowski, right down there. We have, where is she at? We have Emma Grazer, she's playing Janice. And we have so many amazing kids here. So just wanted to introduce us. Thanks. Oh, and please come support us the first 2 weekends of March. It's going to be great. So great.
Okay, let's dive right in. Chapter 1, limits and their properties. Now, what the heck are limits, you say? Well, if I write up the equation, the limit as x approaches 1 of x plus 2. Now, the function is what we're taking the limit of. I don't know just yet, but x equals 3. Yeah,
Damn.
that's right, actually. Okay, let's try another one. Find the value of k for the following limit exists. Now, for the limit to exist, we need to cross x minus 3 from the denominator. K equals negative 3. Yeah.
Damn, girl. Wow. Are you trying to make the rest of us feel dumb?
I'm not trying to. It's just happening.
Okay. Challenge accepted. I'll have to play at your level. Just like how J.R. Smith got better when LeBron James.
When I was 5, I fell in love with this Peace Corps guy. I bared my soul beside the water, which made him laugh, which made me cry.
We get to learn from them.
Snake me. By 13, I gave up trying. I decided to be a mathematician. 'Cause math is real. I memorized a lot of time because addition and never made me feel so loved. Smart with math, but stupid with love. I get it. I get it now.
Do you have an eraser?
I will hope to. Thank you, Matt, for being there to bring me joy. And thank you, Matt, because now you brought me this cute boy.
Is it two?
Yes. Like someone from TV, he's like the guy who feels the roses just with and he's a foot away from me with big smile and shiny eyes, and I can swim in. He is living in the room, and I'm stupid with love. I wanna get it. I wanna get it, but how? Smart with math, but stupid with love. I wanna get it. I didn't get it till now. 2 over 0 is undefined.
Jinx.
I'm astounded and nonplussed. I am filled with calculus. Does the sky work out? He must. I'll swear that for Jim. Could that image be more hot? Let me just enjoy that thought. School was rough, but now it's not. 'Cause now there's him. It's all so simple, stupid with love. But I can get it. Watch this girl. Hey, I learned math so I can learn love. Wanna bet it? I can get it. Just wait. Just wait. Just wait.
All right, shame on any of us who don't go see it, is all I have to say. You guys were amazing. Thank you all so much. We appreciate your coming out tonight to our, you sure you don't want to stay? The meetings are riveting. I promise, I promise. Okay, okay. And probably do a little homework. Thank you, guys. We'll see you at school. Wow. All right, the rest is all downhill. So just so don't have any expectations. Okay. Thank you for arranging that. All right, we are moving on to administrative reports. Don't believe we have any tonight, Dr. Morton.
You
Okay.
know the dates of the shows that we can announce?
She just said it was the weekend, the
Beginning
first
of
weekend in
March.
March.
We do, yeah. March 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, and then 8th, 9th, and 10th as well.
No, it's good. It means hopefully, yeah, you bring your girls, right? It's great. Okay, so now we go on to correspondence. So that's a really good segue, Mrs. Winters. I'm putting you on the spot for correspondence because, you know, shows at our schools.
Shows. Yeah, I was actually just going back through my calendar because I feel like it's been forever since we've had a meeting and so many things have happened. But I think the first thing I want to talk about is Romeo and Juliet at West, which we both saw. Miss Stern and I went on Saturday night, and it was spectacular. It was really great. I brought my freshman with me because he's just doing the pre-prep work right now for Shakespeare, which, as all board members know, especially Dr. Root, my favorite thing on earth. The West performance was phenomenal. Absolutely incredible. I can't say enough good things about it. Shakespeare did a great job. So that was great. Other things, like places I've been, I got to do the African American reading at First Western Elementary School at Black History Month, which I am blessed to do every year. I think that's and a board member. So that was a really neat thing to do. And I was rhythmic and rhyming to the first graders. They were into it. They liked it. So that was cool. I got to go to the jazz showcase last night at Rosa. Dr. Morton was there with me. It's such a neat night because you get to see the jazz bands of all 3 middle schools and both high schools perform together in the round, which is neat. So the bands all face each other and they each play 15 minutes of music and it rotates around. So I was reflecting on it, and what I was thinking is it's such a cool moment because it's a moment where the schools come together in support and collaboration rather than competition. I mean, I love sports. Y'all know I love football and it's great, but sports are by nature competitive. Last night felt, as I watched the kids cheer for each other as they were doing solos, it just felt so collaborative and supportive. It's nice to see the middle schoolers aspire to be in one of the high school jazz bands. It's nice to see the high schoolers return to see the middle schoolers, whether they went to Rosa or Beck or Carusi, all the bands are there. It's cool to see the band directors collaborate with each other. It was cool to see our new coordinator of music there, leading the charge. I have to give a shout out to Ms. Mark at Rosa, who coordinates it every year. It's just such a great time. And y'all know I'm a sucker for jazz music. So I was in jazz band in high school. So it was kind of my thing. I loved that. And then I got to also go to both high school open houses. I went to West with Ms. Sherfane and then East with Miss Gallagher. And Joel, sorry, Joel. But Joel's always at West. So at this point, I feel like, do we notice anymore? No, just kidding. I'm kidding, Joel. Both phenomenal high school open houses. Really neat to see everybody there. Some of the middle school principals also attended, which was nice to see. Them there to support their middle schoolers, their 8th graders who will be rising 9th graders, checking out both high schools. Each high school shined, which was wonderful and amazing to see. Just the unique and special things that make each high school a home to the students that go there. And the pride of the high school students in their schools was evident to see as they communicated that to the 8th graders. So just, really, really good, all really good stuff. I had a great 3 weeks is what I'm saying.
Well, thank you. Mrs. Gallagher.
All right, so Mrs. Winters mentioned that we went to the 8th grade night at East. Last Wednesday, the Camden County Educational Services Commission met. And new members were sworn in, and the biggest part of the agenda was that we passed the budget. We should take a note, their meeting lasted about like 30 minutes. So, and this was a long meeting. So, but yeah, so the major part of the meeting was approving the budget for the calendar year. I did offer to sit on the transportation committee for the commission. And I look forward to learning more about the complicated topic of busing. Last Thursday, Mr. Greenbaum and I joined the Beck PTA meeting. The executive team gave overviews of various events going on at Beck. Dr. Morton and Mrs. Metzger answered questions submitted by parents. Not that I am part of the Beck PTA, but if any Beck parents are listening, it was mentioned that the Beck PTA needs executive members for next year in fundraising and as a treasurer. So if anybody listening is interested, they can contact the Beck PTA president. So thank you.
Great. Any other board members have correspondence? Mr. Greenbaum.
Thank you. I'll add, I joined Mrs. Gallagher at the Beck PTA meeting. I don't have much to add other than thank you very much to the Beck PTA for having us. It's really great to join you and hear about the great things going on there. Thank you to Dr. Morton as well, who fielded everyone's questions and didn't leave much for us to answer, which was okay and definitely appreciated. I also want to mention Fair Funding Committee. This was almost a month ago, but the last Fair Funding Committee, we talked about focusing on what the district has accomplished over the last few years, increased state funding year over year, all of the grants and other funding streams that we've received. and using that as part of our outreach to lawmakers as budget season approaches, hoping for the same or better funding later this month. And I'll give a plug. I believe Thursday this week is the next fair funding meeting. Hopefully, Mrs. Yaras can provide some additional details later. And if anyone's interested in joining, I believe it's Thursday. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other board members have? You already said that I was at Romeo and Juliet. That's all I got to this time, but very impressive. We have a really thriving, bless you, performing arts program in our district. And I was very sad to miss the jazz showcase last night because truly an amazing event. So, all right. We will now move on to our first public comment. There are 2 opportunities for public comment this evening. The first public comment section is for board action items only, items 17 through 20. And there will be another public comment section for any topic at the end of the meeting related to our school district operations. If you are a student in the district, you may comment now or then, either public comment session, on any topic related to our schools. So you have a lot more freedom than the adults in that way. Please identify yourself as a student if you'd like to speak. So we know to call on you first if you're online, or if you're in the room and you'd like to speak, please come to the podium first. If you'd like to speak now, please identify the agenda item and clearly state your name and municipality. For the adults, we will alternate between speakers here in the room and those who are online. Each speaker will be given a maximum of 3 minutes to speak. The timer on the screen will indicate the amount of time you have remaining. Public comment is an opportunity for members of the community to comment on matters relevant to the operations of Cherry Hill Public School District or within the authority of the Cherry Hill Board of Education. The board welcomes diverse opinions on relevant matters. Under established federal law governing reasonable restrictions on speech in public forums, statements which demean individual community members or groups, or which are irrelevant to the operations of the school district or are repetitive, will not be permitted. Community members who would like to present information not relevant to the school district are always welcome to communicate directly to the district superintendent, board president, and all board members via email or other alternative means. Okay, and we will start with you if you are a student. So if you kindly say your name and your municipality, which for a lot of people is Cherry Hill, but may not be yours.
Yeah, Matt Bergery, Cherry Hill. I just wanted to touch a little bit on the issue of class rank at Cherry Hill East. We've been discussing potentially removing class rank. This has been a point of contention for a lot of students, and I'm sure a lot of community members alike, especially those who are involved with the Cherry Hill community, Cherry Hill East community. One thing that we really touched on, particularly in our school newspaper, Eastside, we ran a double truck story on what this might entail and what some of the ramifications of removing class rank might be. One thing we discussed is the fact that there's an exorbitant number of valedictorians at Cherry Hill East, which kind of dilutes the title, and it also unfairly impacts other students, given that in the current senior class, there are 25 people with a 7.0 GPA. And the way the GPA system works, if those students were to maintain that 7.0 GPA, they would all be labeled valedictorian at the graduation ceremony. With that in mind, there are a lot of students who have taken one class that isn't qualifiable for that 7.0 GPA. So if you take an accelerated level class as opposed to an honors class, that's weighted as a 6. That immediately eliminates you from that running. I know a lot of people who are in that position and they're 28th in the class simply for taking one easier class, or those students who have 1B and they're 26th in the class. So it's pretty unfair essentially to a lot of these students. We also discussed disparities in course difficulty between different teachers. So particularly in certain AP level classes, there are teachers who assign a lot more work than other teachers. They grade a lot more harshly than other teachers. And this results in disparity in difficulty in those courses. Thus, these students are unfairly receiving lower grades. And a lot of what this conversation and this discourse is centered around is removing class rank altogether rather than jumping through all of these hoops to tweak the GPA system. If we keep the GPA system as is, it will encourage students not to feel pressured to go for that 7.0 GPA solely for the title of valedictorian, and they might be more encouraged to take classes that they're interested in, regardless of how those are weighted. So a lot of people will take weighted, more difficult classes solely to boost their GPAs, and it kind of detracts from students taking classes that they're interested in. So essentially what we've come to conclude at Eastside, and what a lot of students have concurred with, is that we might as well just remove the system of class rank, because it will better impact these students who feel so pressured or so upset by the fact that they take one class that isn't weighted at a 7.0, they make one mistake, and they immediately lose that valedictorian title. Thank you.
Pat, thank you. Thank you for coming to our podium and speaking tonight. And I know Dr. Morton is taking notes, so I'm sure there'll be some follow-up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we go to the line now, and I don't see any student hands up online, so I'll go to the first non-student hand. And it's a phone number that ends in 788. If you would please state the action item you're speaking on tonight, and your name and municipality.
My name is Jeff Podowitz, and I live in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. This is 17.6, resolution authorizing submission and acceptance of the advanced placement and IB course expansion grant. Please Google that. Google search that. I'm kind of reading from when I searched that online. That's from the DOE. 9.1. Please advise that per the Open Public Records Act, all applications for discretionary grant funding received September 1st, 2003 or later will be matters of public record and be available to members of the public on request. That's important. That means we can do a request for that. 11.3, listen closely. As part of this application process, LEAs, that's you, the school board, school administration, please outline how the training of additional staff to teach AP or IB
Sorry,
course.
Dr. Podowitz, I want to make sure you're sticking to item 17 to 20, or is that what you're referring to?
Yes, this is the exact.
Okay, I apologize. Keep going.
This is when you go to the website and find it. Staff to teach AP or IB courses will result in one or more of the following: expanding their current AP or IB programming to New Jersey disadvantaged and high-need student populations. Students with disabilities are included in these student populations. This is about increasing access to AP and IB classes. To do that with students with disabilities, our school district has to provide support for those students with disabilities in those classes and also other classes. Before that, to level the playing field so that they can qualify for these AP and IB courses. They also have to provide supports. An example of supports is in-class resource to accommodate these students in these courses, these AP and IB courses, and the courses before that. I'm not so sure that's happening in Cherry Hill. I'm not sure that the playing field is being leveled for these students, and I think something that needs to be done if you want to expand the amount of students with disabilities that are taking these AP courses. Thank you very much. And I think that needs to be considered, that it's not just this, but it's other things that need to be done for these students. Thank you very much. That's it.
Okay, we go back to the room. Oh, we have another student. Name and municipality, please.
Matthew Ranchizellis, Cherry Hill, another Matt from East Side and Cherry Hill East. I'd just like to speak in support of everything that Matthew Berkery just said. Inside East Side, we have a 37-member board, and on top of the double truck story that we released an editorial, and that means that all 37 people on the board agreed with the message that we put across with that editorial. And our message was that we believe that class rank should be abolished. Now, in interviewing multiple senior students who are on track to become valedictorian, a number of them actually said, oh, I'm in favor of abolishing class rank. And when the people who are being honored by this system say that this is a system that should be abolished, I think that really speaks to the fact that this is a system that is not truly fair in its allocation of that honor, and not truly fair in how people achieve that rank. So on top of that idea, if people who are not valedictorians and people who are valedictorians are feeling this way about the system, who is it really benefiting? The one thing that I will say is that it is good to honor those students who have excelled academically and have performed so well throughout their time at any high school. But I think you can do that at the end of their time at the high school, honoring them at graduation, rather than releasing these updating rankings, because those don't truly help them. It really just creates a toxic sort of competition where people are worried about where they fall within the other students in their class, when they really should just be worried about themselves, doing the best that they can in their classes, maintaining the best grades they can in their classes, and not worried about where that means they're placed within the other students. And then those at the top of their class can still be honored at the end of the year at graduation and receive that sort of honor. And that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. We really appreciate your speaking as well. We go back to the line, and there are two names. I just want to make sure that neither of you are, well, one I know is not a student. The other, I'm not sure, you don't know your name, so I apologize. If you are a student, please make sure to put an S after your name so I can call on you first, but neither has an S after their name. So I'll go next to Harvey Vasquez. If you could please state your name, your municipality, and the item on our action agenda that you are speaking about. Mr. Vasquez, I think you've unmuted, but if you could please, we can't hear you if you're speaking. Okay, I think we'll go back to the room, and Mr. Vasquez, if you'd still like to speak, if we'll come back to you. So you'll ask you maybe to raise your hand again. Oh, wait, there you go. Let's try. I'm sorry. This is Sugar. I'm sorry. I think we can try again. Mr. Vasquez, go for it. If you could please state the action item you're speaking about, and then your full name and municipality. Okay. We'll try a third time after this. I'm going to go back to the room. I apologize. Can't hear you, so perhaps you'll try to call in again. If anyone, excuse me, would like to speak in the room, please approach the podium. Please state the action item you're speaking about, and your name and your municipality.
Hello, my name is Constance Lee. I'm from Collingswood, but I do have young grandchildren here in Cherry Hill. I'm speaking tonight on the issue of the standards-based climate change education for K through 12
What
students.
action item is that?
It's in the 17s.
Okay.
Funding for standards-based climate change. Is that tonight?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
First off, I take no issue with the topic per se. I really don't. My questions point to the issue I raised a few weeks ago about balanced content in our coursework, diving into controversial topics, and possibly presenting one position without the benefit of students learning how to think and reaching their own conclusions. Some of the courses I question are on the books, and this one is new, so maybe now is the time to address the usage of funds. I raised three questions. What is standards-based climate education? This is new. The topic is a course of study in K through 12, I believe is new. And topics like this used to be couched under current events or possibly in civics. And what is standards-based and whose standards? Science evolves as dictated by the scientific method to continually question. There are many aspects to what degree climate change is dangerous to humans. For example, in September, some 1,600 scientists, including a Nobel laureate, signed a petition challenging the seriousness of the predicament for humans. Will all perspectives be considered in standards-based? We have in our backyards here in Cherry Hill at the beach. Why are windmills at the Jersey Shore, which interrupt our ecosystem, largely accepted and being pushed through in Jersey legislation? In other words, will our students be given opportunity to do their own research and be led to, rather than be led to fait accompli conclusions? Second, will this be incorporated into a science class, or are you entertaining a separate class? If the latter, what is being taken out of the curriculum to accommodate it? Accommodating current events means important core academic courses are getting short shrift. Students have a full plate. Climate change does not need separate attention in K through 12 coursework. However, if you're going to accept funds, I urge you to cut them back. Couch the topic in junior, senior level science along with current events under civics or in science. Use the funds for course materials that provide debate and opposing viewpoints. Charge students with doing the research. Use the funds to sponsor a debate night with pizza, a great format for upper grades, challenging students to think, research, and arrive at their own opinions. I urge you to dispel notions of a separate elective course, maybe you're not, but I don't know that, and not to offer much thought, opinion, money, or direction. Let the students do the research. They know the internet better than all of us. In closing, this comment pertains to my concern for age-appropriate, balanced content with opposing perspectives presented and not leading our students in topics of controversy to a singular viewpoint. Maybe I'm the one jumping to conclusions, but I really don't know where you're going with it. But balanced content has been questionable
Thank you
in some
for-
other courses.
Thank you.
May I
But we're up out of time.
validate?
Thank
on
you.
the
Thank
other
you.
topic?
Thank you for your comment. You can come back to second public comment if you'd like to speak during that time. You get a second chance then. Okay, we go to Harvey Vasquez. I'm hoping that your audio and microphone's working.
Yes, hi, can you hear me now? I'm sorry.
That's fine. Yes, please. If you could just state the item you're speaking about, item 17 through 20, and your full name and municipality, please.
Yes, thank you. Harvey Vasquez, Cherry Hill. The following comment is on behalf of the Cherry Hill Special Education PTA, and I am delivering it as an executive board member of said PTA. I would like to address topic 17.6 and 19.1 of the board agenda. 17.6, based on the document that we have read under 17.6, there are no current ICR classes for EP honors or IP classes. Chisetta would like to know under 11.3 of said document, how will the district comply with the grant for children with disabilities? On 19.1, Chisetta has noticed that there are many special education vacancies occurring in 19.1. How will the district fill these positions without disrupting the education of our students in special education? I must note these educators are also providing compensatory education. Changes to structured education services do not bode well for children with disability, and this results in adjustments that may take weeks for our students to adjust to. Is the district reaching out to the parents of those affected with ample time for parents to assist with this transition, both in school and compensatory services? Finally, what is the requirement for the teachers filling those vacancies if they are not permanent replacements to ensure our students are not receiving a subpar education compared to their general education peers? Thank you.
Okay. And we go back to the room. Anyone else would like to speak in our first public comment? On our action items, if you would like to speak, please approach the podium. If you could please say the item you're speaking about between items 17 to 20 and your name and municipality.
I live in Cherry Hill on Sheridan. My name's Al Harvey. I'm here because my son's a student at Cherry Hill West, and I want to know why there is no shop classes.
Okay, so you can speak about any item related to our schools in our second public comment, which comes at the end of our meeting. So if you just come back at that point, thank you. Okay. And we go back to the line. And I don't see any hands online. Looking back in the room. Nobody's at the podium in the room. And I'm going to close our first public comment. I'm sorry. There is a hand online. I'm going to reopen public comment for the first hand that just came up. And the name is, I believe, Rachna Mohan. If you could, it looks like you are a student. Thank you for putting S after your name. If you could please state your full name and municipality.
Right. My name is Rachna Mohan. I'm not really sure which criteria I'll be talking about, but as both Matts emphasized, Eastside did a full valedictorian spread. And in the spread that we found, a lot of students are very, very unhappy with the ranking system employed at East. And I and many other students emphatically encourage the board to abolish class rank. At East, it is a highly competitive environment, and to be fully immersed in that environment for 4 years is very, very taxing. Just as an example, I moved to the district my freshman year. I've tried my best and taken every high-level course except one, which was math. I have an approximate 6.9 GPA. There are 23 valedictorians in junior year, but not only will I not be ranked second, I will be ranked 24th. Not only is that unfair, but it really is robbing me of my academic standing in a very competitive school. And I find that to be the case for a great many people. And in that valedictorian spread, if you read it, the board will find that a lot of students feel that they're being robbed of their academic standing. So there are two things that can be done. Either turn the system on its head and move to a 5.0 scale, which is not only more accurate, but would make a tremendous amount of students extremely happy, or you have to abolish class rank to eliminate that stress. That's just my personal view, and I really emphatically encourage the board to consider this, as both previous students have said before.
Thank you so much, Rachna, for your comments and for calling in. Okay, looks like we might have another student public comment. Am I getting that right? Okay. Thank you. Just your full name and municipality, please.
I'm Latasha Bailey. I'm from Cherry Hill. And I think the class rank conversation is really interesting. We have a similar conversation at West. I remember last year we had a meeting with Dr. Malash at the time, who was the superintendent, and we spoke on the situation of class rank, and a lot of students there, either who've graduated this year, have like spoken on wanting to get rid of it. But most interestingly, like I remember like recounting the conversation in class like the next day or two, and then I know one of the valedictorians at the time, like she overheard me. She stopped taking her test. She put the pencil down. She turned as pale as a ghost, and she was like, "Oh my God, no." And she was like horrified at the concept of them taking away the rank system, which goes to show how much stress it's like giving people who's, I mean, she's a genius. I mean, like, my God. I'm like, it's like a number. It's not. And I'm very close with two other valedictorians this year. I know one of which, for both of them actually, it's caused them to have like strained relationships with their parents for like pushing them towards it, even when they don't really want to. A close friend of mine is actually vowed to get a B in AP Bio so he can like get away from the competition because it's so hectic. And it's from someone who's also a transfer student. I came to West my freshman year. My guidance counselor recommended me for an A-level class based on my middle school transcript. So that decision was made for me. Like I was out of the standing as a freshman. Like, so, and people like assume that I'm in the position, and I'm like, no, not really. Like I had one guidance counselor in freshman year take that opportunity away from me. And I do think like, and the discrepancy between like the valedictorians is interesting because like I said, the person I mentioned, like a genius, and then we have like other ones who like cheat through everything. So it's like, so it's a really weird dichotomy of like who, because you max out at a 7, of like the people who get that honor and the people who don't. It gets very like very smart people I know will never come near having that position. So I think it's an interesting conversation to have, and we should move forward to it. And I think Wes agrees with what you guys are saying. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So great to hear your view, and also to hear specifically your view at our other comprehensive high school, which was the first time we've heard that represented tonight here from a student from West. So thank you. You guys are very courageous students. All I have to say, all of you. Thank you. For the record, I was a solid B student, and I never took honors classes. So 2 APs. That was it. Okay. No one really cares about my high school record, but anyway, moving right along. All right. I think we're going to close public comment. I don't think there's anybody else here to speak on public comment. So we move on to our board work session. And I will ask Mrs. Winters if you could kindly provide the CNI committee report.
I would be happy to. So CNI committee met to receive 2 presentations. The first presentation, and just if anybody's interested in the presentations, they have been posted on our board website. I'm sorry, district's website. Click on Board of Education and look under presentations. The full presentations that the committee received are there for anybody who wants to view them I'm just going to give a quick summary tonight, but all the information is there for you. So the first presentation was given to us by Ms. Christy Blendetto, who is the CNI supervisor for secondary math and science. She gave us a presentation on the secondary math curriculum changes that have taken place beginning all the way back in the 2020-21 school year, and provided information on proposed changes to 7th grade math for September of 24. So this coming September. So she presented on changing the 7th grade math course to an accelerated 7 and 8 Eureka Math Squared course, which will give us the ability to offer all students taking 7th grade math the opportunity to master both 7th grade standards and 8th grade standards. The idea is that this will support both the cohort of students that are going into Algebra 1 as 8th graders, and actually hopefully boost that number of students taking Algebra 1 as 8th graders, but also give additional support to those students who are continuing to take 8th grade math in 8th grade, the 8th grade math course. It will better support those students, those who are taking 8th grade math, because they will have previewed and learned a majority of the 8th grade standards as 7th graders. So when they come into the 8th grade course, it will directly support their algebra readiness in 9th, because they will be looping those standards again, and it will be reinforced and get them more ready for algebra. I wanted to mention as well that this is directly linked to the milestones of achievement that we put in the district goals, which had to do with algebra readiness. And it is also directly linked to the conversation that was previously had with the NJSLA data, where the CNI committee had a lot of questions about that cohort of students, which is, I think, about 40% of students who are taking 8th grade math as 8th graders, and looking to really help those students achieve as highly as they can and get ready for high school algebra and the classes going forward. One thing I did want to raise, which links to some of the comments that were just made in first public comment about supporting students with special education, is that all students will be supported during this change. So there's going to be a focus on differentiated instruction, which will create the curriculum that is accessible for all students with opportunities for both remediation and enrichment, and that there has been collaboration with the special ed supervisor, ICR, and resource room teachers in planning and professional development. And the committee was very intentional in asking questions to make sure that special education students were considered and included as part of this conversation, and they'd be able to access the course material so that they can participate in this accelerated course as well fully. And as I mentioned before, again, this is just a very brief synopsis. Ms. Blendetto did a fantastic job explaining. The full presentation is available for you to view with lots of graphics that explain it better than I ever could on the district website. So that is the summary of that presentation. She also did touch on the other big change that's coming, which we've discussed previously, which is the math pathway courses that are being implemented in the fall, which may be the thing that people like the most that we've ever done. I think that might be true. So that's also coming for September 24. So to summarize, 2 big changes in 6 to 12 math. 7th grade math is going to be a 7-8 accelerated course, and then math pathway courses at the high school. And then at the kicking it backwards towards the elementary level, we're also going to be fully implementing Eureka Math Squared. So for everybody who's been listening and playing along at home, this is a combined effort from the administration with the committee work in support to really look at how we're teaching math in Cherry Hill and how we support all students going forward. And I'm really excited to see the results of all of this hard work that the administration has done on math this year. So that is the first presentation. The second one was given to us by Ms. Allison Staffen, who's the CNI supervisor for ELA and social studies. And it had to do with community service and service learning opportunities, which is something I'm very interested in, having been a youth minister for a decade and very steeped in service learning. She discussed the differences between community service and service learning, and how we're transitioning from just community service projects, individuated projects on a topic, to a service learning model. And the difference is that service learning ties learning experience to the community service opportunity. So it's not just a one-off, everybody bring a can in. It has to do with tying that to a learning experience to the curriculum so that kids have a deeper understanding of what they're doing and why. They can work on real life challenges and reflect on the challenges and their core values. What I love about this is that it's experiential and interdisciplinary. I feel like there's a lot of value in students applying the skills that they learn in a variety of courses and getting to stretch their wings with collaboration and real world problem solving together. I really think that moving forward, the work that we do together as a team, that team building, being able to stretch your mind, being able to collaborate and problem solve together, resolve conflict together, those are skills that will benefit our kids going forward towards graduation and whatever they choose to do beyond our school district. There's also going to be opportunities expanding with internships and job shadowing so that students can explore career paths and gain practical experience, which I think is key as kids move towards deciding what path they would like to follow after high school. So again, that is a very brief synopsis. Ms. Staffen did a fantastic job going through it all. The full presentation is available for all of you to view in your leisure on the website. And if you have any questions, you can always email the C&I committee. We are always happy to hear from you. Do any other C&I committee members have anything to add? I feel like I used a lot of words to describe what the visual did much better than me. So I do encourage everybody to look at the presentation. It will make more sense. All right, so that was our committee. It was 2 presentations, well received. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, we move on to Mr. Greenbaum. Could you please provide the business and facilities report?
Thank you. So we're moving into budget season, and I believe Mrs. Sugars has a presentation to share on where we are with the draft budget.
Put my microphone on, that would be helpful. This is some information that we've already shared with the board, just sort of getting our feet wet, kind of acclimating ourselves to where we landed in 23-24 as we prepare to go into 24-25. So one of the things that we had talked about back in December was kind of where our tax levy was. As we know, tax levy is a significant portion of our budget. And so when we take a look at our general fund tax levy, kind of where we have moved in that from 2019-20 to 23-24, we have had increases in those years. We had a large increase also in 23-24 in our debt service fund. Debt service is not a part of our budget in the sense that it was already approved when the referendum was approved, but we do factor it into when we're looking at our numbers and what the tax impact is. So if you look at the total tax levy from 19-20 to 23-24, you can see that there has been increases each year. The percentage increase last year was at the full 2% after discussions with the board about the importance of going to the full 2%. And then we can see what the tax impact was. The average assessed home is around $250,000. So it was $104 in the general fund and about $328 in the debt service fund, which was good news because we had predicted that the debt service fund would be around $399. So that's kind of where we're starting off in terms of what the tax levy looks like. If we also talk about state aid, because that's also the next largest factor in our budget. You can see here that our state aid has increased as well over the past couple of years. It's almost doubled since 2019-20, which is good news. We're moving in the right direction. We're moving in the direction we should have been moving a long time ago. So we've had some significant increases in state aid. We also last year for the first time in a while started to receive debt service aid. We hadn't seen that since 2018, and that was because of the bond referendum. And so we saw some significant increases over the past couple of years, and I'm not making any predictions about this year, but we will find out in a couple of weeks what that looks like as well. And then when we look at our total budget, our general fund budget, as you can see, has increased as well. There was a large increase between 22-23 and 23-24. A lot of that had to do with funding that we used in the capital reserve account. We'll talk about that. And then you can see also that our debt service budget, which is just the payment of principal and interest on our bonds, we had a debt service budget for the first time in a long time last year as well. So last year we used a lot of capital. In 23-24, we used a lot of capital reserve dollars to fund. We had the opportunity to apply for ROD grants. ROD stands for Regular Operating District. We had 5 opportunities to apply for grants. 2 of them were called regular ROD grants. Those were for some enhancements that would complement what we're doing with the bond referendum funds.
And then the final 3 were for preschool projects, classroom additions at Malberg, classroom additions at Kilmer, and then bathroom additions at Malberg. We have preschool classrooms at Malberg that currently do not have bathrooms in them. So this was our 60% share. The state would provide 40% share of the funding. And so we were not funded on the first 2. We were funded on the last 3. So we didn't use quite all of this capital reserve money, but we had planned to last year use this funds to provide our local share of those grant applications. So when we're talking about what it may look like this year in terms of capital reserve projects, we're looking for things that will enhance what we are already doing with the bond referendum or are not included in the bond referendum. And so we have a couple things here that are on our short list right now. One being the main entrance enhancement here at Lewis, which we had applied for the ROD grant for last year. We have some underground storage tanks at Marl Crest that need to be removed. Backflow preventers, this is a state mandate. We need to do this at several of our schools. And so we are looking to do that project. And then a couple of things that Crucy and Rosa would be things that would complement what we're already doing with the bond referendum. Some HVAC units for server rooms for our technology, and then a fire alarm system at Malberg that needs to be upgraded that was not in the bond. So we're taking a look at things that certainly will not be spending or allocating $12 million next year, but some projects that will enhance what we're already doing through the bond referendum or things that need to be done. We also have banked cap. We've talked about this as well. Banked cap is money that is, it's taxing authority that we have set aside. So in the past, when we did not go to the full 2% tax levy increase, we can bank that taxing authority. It's on a 3-year rolling cycle. We either use it or it expires. So the banked cap that we generated in 21-22, which is about 2.7 million in taxing authority, will expire this year if it's not used. And the bank cap generated in 22-23, which is about 1.3 in taxing authority, would expire in 25-26. Basically, what that means is it allows us to go beyond our 2% cap and expand our taxing authority with those pots of authority. So if we often talk about how our budget breaks down, and we take a close look at our 23-24 budget. And as we often talk about, 70% of our budget is salaries and benefits. We are a personnel driven organization. And so a large part of our budget, 70% of our budget, is definitely related to personnel, salaries and benefits. Last year, about 6% of our budget was capital reserve, and 24% of our budget fell into the category of other. And so that may sound like a lot of money, but as we have talked about over the past couple of years when we have done budgets, we have talked about really what that breakdown is and what exactly is that other, which makes up just about $61 million. What does that entail and what are we spending that money on? So these are quick numbers, just kind of combing through our 23-24 budget and pulling out various categories of expenses just to sort of demonstrate how quickly and necessarily this money is spent. So we start out with, $60,962,577 that falls into the other category. And as you can see by the list here, we are quickly spending that money on things that are necessary. So we pay tuition to out-of-district placements. That can be for private schools, that can be for the disabled, that can be for Camden County VOTEC. So we pay tuition to place our students in other placements. That's a large category. Our largest category is always transportation. So we've seen some significant increases in those costs over the past couple of years between drivers and the cost of gas and all of those kinds of things. Substitute teachers, $2.8 million budgeted for substitute teachers, because whether the teachers show up, the kids are still coming. So we need to make sure that we have adequate substitute teachers when our teachers are not well or
can't be here for a day. We also have special education services. We spend significant amount of money in special education, ABA, speech, audiology, OTPT, all kinds of services that we are providing. So that's another significant category. Homebound instruction for students that can't come to school. We do part of that salary and part of that with services, job coaching services, in-school nursing services. We saw a significant increase in this category, and this is for students who may need a one-to-one nurse or may need a nurse to ride on the bus with them, among other services. So we've seen a significant increase in that category in the last year. We have our professionals. We have our school physician. We need to be audited every year. We have legal fees that we spend every year. And then we have utilities. We spend $3.7 million just to, keep the heat on, keep the lights on, have internet access and telephone access, waste removal, insurance, $1.7 million in insurance between property liability and student accident insurance. We have a state assessment fee that we pay each year for rod grants that we have been awarded in the past. Just to make copies, we spend $500,000 each year just to make copies. Almost $32,000 for postage. We have our New Jersey School Board's dues, which we have to pay, $27,000, and then just our basic things that we use to protect our district in terms of firewalls, and we have to keep things going like Genesis and Blackboard and board docs, which we're using tonight. All those kinds of things is about $2.5 million. So once you take those out, we're down to 15 million. And that's about 7% of the budget. So on top of the graph, we have some other categories that we can look at that maybe we have some more flexibility with. Supplies, textbooks, we have furniture, maintenance, custodial and grounds, our extracurricular and athletics, and our professional development. I would say these categories are probably the first categories that we start to look at when we need to make cuts in our budget. So we have those categories as well, which, like I said, we have a little bit more flexibility with. You can see the breakdown here. When we kind of take all of those things out, we've got about 2% of our budget left, and that's about $4.5 million. And I'm sure there's things that, we could have included that, that we didn't categorize here. But so when we talk about, what we really have that we can spend that's, flexible or that are nice to have kind of things, there's a lot of other things that come before we can get to that category. So we've talked about this over the past couple of years. I think it's just a good reminder to see that even though we have a very large budget, we also have very large expenses that go with it as well. And then if we look at our budget from a revenue side, we can see here that 75% of our budget is funded by taxes and 15% of our budget is funded by state aid. That state aid number has increased over the past couple of years, which is a good thing. This is just the general fund budget. This is not special revenue. So this is not including some of the grants that we have been talking about. But you can see that we are heavily supported by our tax base. So what I really want to talk tonight about is timelines because, we are actively working on the budget each day, but it's kind of, we don't get our state aid figures until the end of February. And so we kind of need those numbers in order to kind of finish up our budget. So we're doing our budget update tonight. We know that the governor's address is the fourth Tuesday, which will be February 27th. We expect our state aid numbers to be released on February 29th. And the problem with that is that we have a board meeting on February 27th and we have a board meeting on March 12th. We need to submit our initial budget on March 20th. And unfortunately, we don't have a board meeting in that timeframe where we would really have an opportunity between getting our state aid numbers and submitting our budget to kind of review everything and talk about it. We'll have some opportunity to do that at the B&F committee meeting, but not with a full board. So we talked at our last B&F committee meeting about scheduling an additional board meeting between March 12th and March 20th in order to have the opportunity discuss the budget on the 12th, go back, make any changes that we need to make, and then approve it on the 19th before the 20th deadline. So I know that you've had lots of extra board meetings and probably would not be looking forward to another one, but unfortunately, I think it is the best way to make sure that the board is in a good place and understands what the budget looks like. And then once we get that approved, we submit our budget to the county office. The county office has to review our budget. Once we get their approval, we need to advertise that budget, and then we can have our public hearing. Public hearing must be held between April 24th and May 7th, and ours is currently scheduled for April 30th in that time frame. So that's kind of what we're looking at right now. It's kind of, we're putting the finishing pieces in. We have to wait for those state aid numbers to come before we can finalize everything, and then we can go from there. So, as of the B&F committee last week, they had not released the state budget software. They have released that now, so we are able to start working with that. They also released the CPI, which influences our transportation renewals. So our contractors have the opportunity to renew their contracts within the CPI, or we have to put it back out to bid. I think with that CPI, we won't have to put a lot back out to bid, so that's good news. We have to finish up our revenue analysis, and we need the state aid figures in order to do that. As Superintendent's Council needs to finish our administrative review, we need to review our additional funding requests that we have received and decide and prioritize those, so we can finalize our personnel recommendations. And then we need to get our state aid numbers, which will come at the end of February. And also a big piece is our health benefit estimates. We typically get those pretty late as well, just because it's actually to our advantage to wait as long as we can to get those numbers. So we anticipate that we will have those numbers by early March. So we're just waiting for a couple more pieces of the puzzle. We have been working. We have all of our current employees into the budget. We have our position control roster done, which we have to submit with our budget. And so we're just waiting for a few more of these pieces in order to finalize everything and have some pretty robust discussions after February 27th. All right. Are there any questions? Sure.
Do you by any chance off the top of your head know the figures for the banked cap in percentage of taxable authority?
I don't know that off the top of my head. I would say, let's go back and look at that. Yeah, so we know that 2%, our current tax levy, 2% is 3.7, just about 3.8 million. So it's not quite the full 2%, but I don't know what the number is off the top of my head.
Mrs. Sugar. Is that it?
It shows what we did the previous couple
was
of
asking
years.
about
You
the
could just
percentages.
subtract from two.
Yes. Yeah. So,
Percentage over 2%?
yes. So 2% of our current tax levy is 3,786,329. So our banked cap of 2.7, I'm gonna guess would be 1.5, 1.25. But no, I don't have that percentage in front of me. Mrs. Gallagher.
In the list of capital reserve projects, the one of, I forget which one it was, but it was like a state mandated.
Yes.
Wrote a question down. Is there like a time frame that work has to be done?
Yes, sooner rather than later. Yes. So basically what that is because we're tied into the pipe, the water pipes. We have to ensure that if there was ever a backup here, that wouldn't flow back into the community water pipes. So it's work that needs to be done.
Just a comment, my very, very rough math, but it looks like if the busing contracts or transportation contracts, if they were to take the CPI, then we're looking at an additional $813,000 at least just to get next year's buses.
Yeah, so it's always, you try to work with the contractors. The CPI has been very low over the past couple of years. This one actually surprised me a little bit, but if you don't renew, then you're putting it back out to bid and then you don't know what you're going to get. So we typically feel that it's in our best interest to work with the contractors that we currently have.
Yeah, and I just think as like we all consider our budget, like almost, I mean, it's just shy of $1 million just to get the same buses we have this year, next year.
Yes.
Right. So, I mean, I just think like when we think about, like, that's always startling to me. And that's just one part of and we don't know what our health benefits are going to be. Right.
Right.
We have other salary considerations that are in discussion. Like there's just a lot.
Yes.
And we have mandatory classes because we have students that that we are mandated by law to have services for. So we know that will be coming as well, additional classes. So those are additional. I mean, I think pretty quickly, yeah, we're getting there. So I think, I know last year, and previous years, and I think the additional meeting is coming. So everyone brace yourself for an additional meeting. Looks like we're pretty close on that, firming that up. But I think also if we're going to do our work well, we really probably have some individual conversations we need to have amongst ourselves, in smaller groups, because otherwise we won't be prepared to do the work in the room. So I think those probably are, I'm assuming Mr. Greenbaum, you're going to be targeting us for conversation. So, okay.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
All right, so continuing with BNF, thank you very much, Mrs. Sugars, for that presentation. In our committee meeting, BNF discussed the same presentation that we just saw today. State aid numbers are expected at the end of February, and I look forward to a good discussion in the March BNF meeting, focusing on board and administrative priorities and any funding challenges or, Lord willing, unexpected windfalls, but we'll see. As Mrs. Sugars mentioned, we'll likely have an additional special meeting in March to allow for sufficient discussion of the budget. That date is still to be determined, and I will defer to Mrs. Stern for any scheduling of that. We also briefly touched on food service RFP. The board expressed a desire last year to put out a new RFP for food service with the hope of improving the quality of our food service offerings, or at least get out from under the current cost model, which puts a lot of restrictions on what we can do with our funds. The timeline is still to be determined, but it sounds like we're likely looking at the time frame after we get through budget season, and looking forward to some of those opportunities there. Lastly, I will go through a construction update with bond construction and capital projects. I'll do my best to keep this brief. This is pared down from about 4 pages of notes, most of which are just saying things are progressing as expected, which is always good news. So we met with representatives from Garrison Architects, New Road Construction, ERI on February 5th. Roofing projects have been completed for some time. We're just waiting on closeout paperwork and final checks. High School East Stadium, new lights went up in December. We were able to pour the home and visitor bleacher slabs on January 23rd, with materials for bleachers arrived February 5th. It's on schedule for completion before the first home game in the spring, and we'll keep tracking that. Big thing going on now is construction of APRs. Construction's moving forward at various sites, weather permitting. Lots of mud this past month with all of the snow and rain, but moving forward, concrete pads and site work are done. Moving forward with planning of floors, colors are selected. Each school will have its own logo at center court, which is kind of exciting. And exterior wall panel colors have been selected to match existing buildings. Same thing with metal trim, roofs, things like that. So a lot of good progress there. Next big thing coming up is Carusi. There's going to be a lot of work going on there over the next 3 years. They had a favorable proposal for temporary classroom units that have been integrated into plans. There's lots of work developing the layout and currently doing a deep dive into scope and logistics of abatement. They're going to have some additional crew for summer work, with that abatement work kicking off over the summer when nobody's in the building. And expected to go to New Jersey Controller's Office, I believe later this month. With Beck, looking at redoing the media center flooring. That's also to be done this summer, starting late June, once the school lets out. And as I mentioned, lots of other work going on. Just wanted to hit the highlights, but a lot of good progress and glad to see things moving swimmingly. All right, with that, any questions? All right, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. We move on to the Human Resources report. And as usual, I'm limited in what I can say, but we did review the job description and updates for administrative assistant to superintendent. Mrs. Cohen has been in that job for so long that it was hard to even imagine that the job description that she originally was under is even fits for current day work. So definitely thank you to Mrs. Lieber for taking the lead on updating that and working with Mrs. Cohen and everybody else on that. We also had some really good discussion about, ongoing efforts for hiring and also retention, which is also really significant and important. And Mrs. Lieber, who is at the helm this year, has really brought in made some new efforts to connect with our new hire staff and make sure that they're, we're getting a good feedback loop about their experience working in the district. So just lots of proactive efforts with that. So really appreciate that. Hiring and retention obviously 70% of our budget is our personnel. So hiring and retention is a really important piece for us. And we want to always be the district of choice for candidates. So there are a lot of moving parts to why people would come to work here and why people want to stay working here. So, just a lot of different efforts from a lot of different angles on both fronts. So, just really want to thank you for that. And then we had some nice ideas from our committee members about hiring and how to attract and make sure, we're attracting and retaining our critical human workforce. So, and there was a preschool job fair, which we talked about as well. So we had some good candidates come out of that. And that's all I can say. Any comments from committee members? Okay, any comments or questions from board members? Okay, very good. And we move on to policy and legislation, Mr. Mayor.
Sure. So this will be a fairly quick update. We there were no legislative updates at last week's meeting, so nothing to review there. We did bring up not so much for discussion or review, just noted that it is budget season. Thank you to Mrs. Sugars for the presentation she just did. So the policies that were on our agenda last week, specifically 6810, 6220, and 6230, all of those are the specific policies which place upon all school boards, including ours, the requirement that we have a budget and that we prepare a budget, and that the software and forms and guidance directives that are used are those promulgated by the Commissioner of Education. And with respect specifically to policy 6810, financial objectives, that we know and take very seriously the fact that as the board, we are stewards of the finances for the district, and that finances are to be carefully considered when constructing a budget and publishing that budget for the community to review as well, together with the fact that there needs to be a specific budget hearing, as Mrs. Sugars mentioned as well. So, and there were, most importantly and most relevantly, no additions, no revisions to any of those policies. They are exactly as they have been for the last several years. We had a very brief discussion, not really so much of a discussion about the need to address the 2026-2027 calendar, that where we will not be in a position to do that or to finalize that until we can see from the state the specific dates that will be approved for school absences. The state does publish a list. They have yet to publish one for 26-27. We'll probably come back to that either in committee or again at our next public meeting. The discussion, there was a very short also discussion and some understanding that we have had over the course of the last few weeks of the importance of expanding existing school policies to address more than just what is currently listed. Specific policies being most appropriately our HIB policy and our code of conduct policies. Specifically, those are 5600 and 5512 to include, for instance, not in limitation, the types of behaviors that are covered under those policies. Those would include anti-Semitism and it would include Islamophobia, as opposed to a brand new standalone policy. The policies that we currently have that have always been in place cover behavior, expected behavior of our students in all of our schools. They don't, however, always specify, and it's impossible really to specify every particular type of behavior which could be covered, but that doesn't mean that we can't look at those and see, is there an opportunity to include some additional language in those relevant policies. So that's what we're doing. We're doing that in conjunction with Mr. Green, our attorney. This has been going on for a few weeks or so, that we're looking at those particular policies. Those two I mentioned because they're the ones that are most likely and most appropriate and most comprehensive. Doesn't mean that necessarily the only one. So we'll take a very broad look. But that was it. So there wasn't any specific description of the policy. No need to go into that in any more detail this evening. Finally, because there are a few trips coming up for our high school students, which will necessitate their missing 2 or more days of school, a waiver is required, specifically of Reg 2340 for field trips. Those specific 4 trips are the Cherry Hill West baseball team will be traveling to Myrtle Beach for a tournament. They will miss 2 days of school. Cherry Hill East's team will be traveling to Orlando. They're going to miss 3 school days for that trip. And then the upcoming state competition for DECA, which is March 4th, 5th, and 6th upcoming. Both Cherry Hill West and Cherry Hill East have a number of students that will be competing, and they will miss 2 or possibly 2.5 days of school in order to compete, represent Cherry Hill, not just represent their schools, but our entire community. I'm looking forward to that one in particular. I'll be judging as well the state competition because ethics does not allow me to judge any Cherry Hill students. I can't do that, but I'll be rooting for you nonetheless. That covers the agenda. Or did I miss any other P&L members, any issues that I did not bring up? No, good. Any other questions from board members? Yes.
So those absences traditionally are covered by spring break. Is that the case? So we're waiving that because they are not necessarily.
Yeah, yes, that's accurate.
Okay.
Yes, so the west trip takes place during this spring break, but the last 2 days wouldn't be covered by spring break. Children from east will be observing the holidays during that time, so they couldn't go during that time, so they had to go during another time.
Anything else? Good. All right. Okay. That is it for P and L.
Okay. And Dr. Rude, can you please give the report out for strategic planning?
Sure, this should be pretty short. The first item, Lynn Sugars gave a brief update on the demographic study. So the demographic study, this has been done in the past in the district through a demographer, Dr. Grip. So many of us have seen the previous GRIP report. This demographic study is to kind of study, where people are in the district and figure out kind of how the population is currently, how it is at present and how it's changing. So Dr. Grip is in the middle of that study. He's been currently reaching out to the township for housing and building information. There's a little, I won't call it, it's not a problem. It's a little bit of a hiccup with trying to figure out how to account for the preschool students in the district, since it's a little bit more complex because they don't have like a simple explicit sending zone. So that makes it a little bit more complicated. So the administration's working with Dr. Grip to figure out how to accurately count and predict preschool student populations. Next, we got a update from Barbara Wilson on the communications audit. So this is a major undertaking for the district. The communication audit is looking at all things communication. So that might be, how things are communicated out to parents, or how things are communicated internally between administration and teachers, the website, all kinds of avenues for how information is shared and disseminated within the district and and between district and community. So there have been surveys that have been out, and hopefully people have been filling out those surveys and sending them in. The more information we get, the more comprehensive a look we can take at what we currently have, and the better recommendations for changes we can get from the company that is completing the survey for us. Let me see, just making sure. Let me see. So this has been advertised on Genesis and on posters throughout the district and at the library. So if you're looking for information on that survey, those are the places to find that. Township will also send out reminders. Focus groups are going to be meeting on February 21st and 22nd. And a team of 7 people from NSPRA, which is the audit firm, are currently working on the audit. Let's see, Sustainability Committee met on February 1st. They're just now beginning to put together their comprehensive sustainability plan. So a lot of work to go and some big things to come. So we're looking forward to seeing more of that as it develops throughout the spring. Let me see, in old and new business, Mr. Mayor and Ms. Gallagher shared a state of the district report from another school district, just showing kind of different ways that school districts use to disseminate information and to kind of share the highlights and the details, and kind of like an info pamphlet about how things are progressing. And we discussed that and other ways to communicate all the great things that go on in the district to the community, as much as we can try to do that at the microphone here at our meetings. We don't always have the largest viewership, so it'd be nice to have other avenues to share the good news. And I think that pretty much does it. Any questions? Okay. Oh, Miriam.
Just
Ms.
a update, which I think you would have seen as well, but the Mrs. Gallagher brought to the attention that the community at large outside of church, I don't know if you want to speak to that.
The link for the communication survey was not in the township email that went out last week. So it will be in Tuesday. I don't know. I think I got that email on Tuesday, so it will be next week.
I mean, I think what we do know is we can't speak for what the township will do,
Right.
but we know the deadline.
The deadline has changed
Excuse
to
me,
February 17th.
sorry, I can,
Yeah.
I can speak to that. The mayor's weekly message comes out on Thursdays, so it'll be this coming Thursday that it comes out.
But the deadline has been extended for everybody through the 17th. I don't know what day of the week that is. What's today? Saturday? So 4 days from today, Saturday, someone's telling me. So thanks.
Okay, so another reference to the communications audit survey is going to be coming out through the mayor's office. We encourage you to look for that and take action, because the window to participate in that process is closing this weekend. So so look for that in 2 days and get right on it.
Okay, thank you very much. And now we move on to our special action agenda. We have curriculum and instruction. And Mrs. Winters, if you could please move the CNI agenda.
I would love to. The superintendent recommends, and I move the following: 17.1, approval of attendance at conference and workshops for the 23-24 school year. 17.2, approval of rider to professional service agreements for 23-24 school year. 17.3, resolution to approve professional development ELA coaches. 17.4, resolution authorizing submission and acceptance of the building capacity for career pathways and comprehensive schools, cohort 2, cycle 3. 17.5, resolution authorizing submission and acceptance of the school climate change grant. 17.6, resolution authorizing submission and acceptance of the advanced placement and international baccalaureate course expansion grant. Do I have a second? Mr. Mayor, are there any questions? Ms. Sugars, please open the voting.
Okay, board members, you may cast your votes. And the motion carries.
Okay, we move on to business and facilities. Mr. Mayor, could you please move the BNF agenda?
I could, but I'm going to pass it over to Mr. Greenbaum, who
Oh
I
my
think really
gosh.
wants to do it.
Thank you, Mr. Greenbaum. It has been a long day. Could you please move the BNF agenda?
Absolutely. Thank you. The superintendent recommends, and I move the following. 18.1, approval of bill lists. Do I have a second? Mrs. Chairfane, any questions? Seeing none, Mrs. Sugars, please open the voting.
Board members, you may cast your votes. And the motion carries.
Okay, and we move on to human resources. The acting superintendent recommends, and I move the following. 19.1, termination of employment certificated. 19.2, termination of employment non-certificated. 19.3, appointments certificated. 19.4, appointments non-certificated. 19.5, salary change non-certificated. 19.6, other compensation certificated. 19.7, affiliation agreement. Do I have a second? Dr. Rude, any questions? Seeing none, Mrs. Sugars, if you could please open the voting.
Okay, board members, you may cast your votes.
Okay,
Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, It
Sure you
really
don't-
is
you
your
sure you don't
turn.
want Mr. Greenbaum to do it?
Mr. Greenbaum. I think I want it to be you,
All
please.
right. The acting superintendent recommends, and I move the following, item number 20.1, approval of harassment, intimidation, and bullying investigation decisions. Do I have a second? Mrs. Winters, are there any questions? Seeing none, Mrs. Sugars, would you open the voting, please?
Board members, you may cast your votes. And the motion carries.
Okay, and we have nothing to be voted on for strategic planning yet. Hopefully in the future, someday. We move on to new business. Do any board members have new business? Mrs. Sherfain?
Just something little. I think this goes on Miss Winter's radar. Sorry to add stuff to your agenda, but I attended, get your pen out. I attended the Camden and Gloucester County board meeting this week, and they had mentioned that there is a strong initiative to include gun safety training in schools. I'm not sure to what extent, if at all, we do that, but I thought that was very interesting. It was a very long presentation. But the gist of it was it's the kind of thing that nobody thinks about it until it's something to think about. So I just figured I'd pass that along as something to think about.
Okay, any other new business? Any other old? Okay, we move on to old business. Does anybody have any old business? Mr. Greenbaum?
Thank you. So I would like to speak briefly about some district policies that recently came into question. In our last meeting, we heard a public comment asking the district to repeal a long list of policies that were claimed might be unconstitutional or discriminatory. This isn't the first time we've heard this comment. We've heard it at least 7 other times, just from my notes in December, November, September, just going back throughout the last year. They're always listed by number. I think most people don't have our policies memorized. I doubt most people take the time to look them up. So I thought there's some value in listing out what these policies are. And they are 1140 Affirmative Action Program, 1523 Comprehensive Equity Plan, 2100 Anti-Racism, 2260 Affirmative Action Program for School and Classroom Practices, 5116 Education of Homeless Students and Youth, 5755 Equity and Educational Programs and Services, 5756 Transgender Students, 8465 Bias Crimes and Bias-Related Acts, and 8810 Use of Cultural, Ethnic, or Religious Themes in our educational program. Every one of these policies enumerates rights and protected afforded to our students, and every one of them is based on state or federal law or both. I honestly don't know if we could repeal these policies if we wanted to, but I think a more important question is why would we want to take rights away from students? In my opinion, the only thing these policies discriminate against is the act of discrimination itself. I could certainly understand why some community members were appalled or offended. It's my view that as board members, our first priority is to ensure every child feels safe and supported while in our care, and everything else follows from that. With that being said, if anyone wants to learn more about these or other policies, they're all available online. That's fully transparent. They're on the district website under Our District Policies and Procedures. You could look them up by number or by keyword. And that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other board members would have any other old business? Mr. Mayor?
Just, sometimes I know I personally will take for granted things that I know because it was a life that I lived as a prosecutor. So I see those policy numbers. I know what they mean. I know what protections they afford to our students, many of which are the most often victimized. But I appreciate that you took the time to enumerate those because, like you said, most, and I often don't know. I certainly don't know all of our policies by number. So I appreciate that. I mean, it's important to bring it out, to shine light on what, some in the community believe should not exist, protections. So I appreciate your bringing that up. And if that is a discussion that we're going to have, I'm ready to have it. I'm ready to have it in a way that is not going to make those who want to abolish those policies happy. But again, I'm speaking for myself. I don't speak for the board, but I appreciate your bringing that out and bringing up those specific protections and the source of where those protections come from.
Okay, any other old business? Okay, seeing none, we move on to our second public comment period. I have my notes here. Okay. This is our second public comment period. This is a time in which you may speak on any school-related topic. As I think a lot of you know, we will always start with our students because they are our priority and they are why we are on the board. Many of us are here. We will, if you are a student and you are online, I do ask, would you please put an S after your name so I can be sure to allow you to go first early on. If you are a student in the room and you'd like to speak, I would ask you to please, if you're comfortable, approach the podium first. The timer on the screen will let you know that your time remaining, you will have 3 minutes to speak. Public comment is an opportunity for members of the community to comment on matters relevant to operations of Cherry Hill Public School District or within the authority of the Cherry Hill Board of Education. The board welcomes diverse opinions on relevant matters. Under established federal law governing reasonable restrictions on speech in public forums, statements which demean individual community members or groups, or which are irrelevant to the operations of the school district, or are repetitive, will not be permitted. Community members who would like to present information not relevant to the school district are always welcome to communicate directly to the district superintendent, board president, and all board members via email or other alternative means. And with that, we will go to the podium. If you would please state your full name, your municipality.
Yes, hi, good evening to all. Harvey Vasquez, Cherry Hill. I would like to follow up on the email dated 19 January 2024. My wife and I addressed to all of the distinguished members of the board present here today. I also spoke briefly about our request during the public hearing on January 23rd. As per some of your out of office replies that we got, it stated, and I quote, "In accordance with the provisions of New Jersey law and board policies, all responses to your questions and concerns will come from the board president and/or the superintendent on behalf of the Board of Education." I am here to report that as of today, we have not received any response, neither from you, Madam President, or the acting superintendent. The board and school district has emphasized their desire to have better engagement with our community. And most recently, a survey was sent out to gauge how you can improve such engagement with your stakeholders here in Cherry Hill. Perhaps the example could be set by reaching out and/or responding to parents on their concerns that at times are presented here or via email. As per your current protocols, I understand that at times stakeholders and the school district may not meet eye to eye on certain topics. But this does not prevent us from continuing to engage in a meaningful process of solving issues related to education of our students. So we hope to hear from you soon. Thank you.
Okay, we go back to the line. And the first hand up is the phone number 788. If you could please state your name and municipality.
Okay, my name is Jeff Podowitz. I'm in Cherry Hill. I live in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. From Eastside Online, February 8th, 2024, the East Mental Health Committee create a Give What You Can wall. Our intentions right now are to focus on the deep root causes of the mental health stigma at East and the competitive environment, using survey results from macro level surveys, etc. The article continues, many students live in environments where it is hard to find resources. You often feel ostracized and shamed if you want to ask your parents. With the board, the color committee hopes to be able to create a sense of unity, that we're all in this together and you're not alone in feeling lethargic and unmotivated. Root causes. What about the learning loss that was created by the COVID-19 epidemic and a lack of guidance by our state DOE as to how to best institute distant learning? What about increasing educational supports in the classroom? What about decreasing class size, where students students would be more? What about students being more prepared for the rigors of high school, in middle school? All right. What about providing adequate supports in classrooms, especially for the students with disabilities, identified or not? That is approximately 20% of our student population. When it comes to this population, what is suggested by the statement? You feel ostracized. You often feel ostracized, and you want to ask your parents. Well, referring to those students with disabilities, that shouldn't even be suggested. Those students with disabilities need to talk with their parents. They must talk with their parents. And very few of them are ostracized, if any. That shouldn't be suggested at all in an article like this. But it was. With students with disabilities, unfortunately, many times, it's the student, the child, parents that are actually advocating for their child with the school district, all right, and not necessarily getting supported by the school district, all right? No. That should never, ever been mentioned in that article. Students, parents with disabilities, their interests.
Thank you for your comment. When we go back to the room, if anyone would like to speak, please approach the podium. Please don't be shy. That way we can keep things moving. Thank you so much. If you could please state your name and your full name and your municipality.
My full name is Al Harvey Hill, and I live in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, obviously. Yeah, my question is to the board is, why don't we offer any shop classes to the high school students? It's a reasonable thing. No wood shop, no electric shop. These are skills that most students can use even after, if they go to college or not go to college. This is something that we should have. And when I brought it up to the teachers, they said, we have to ask you. So my question is to you, why don't we? Can anybody? Please. It's a real question. Can I get an answer? No, I guess not.
Just to be clear, during public comment, it's not a dialogue. It just, we record your comments, and at the end, the superintendent will respond to some. That might be your first time going through this, so thank you. Okay, and we go back to the line. My glasses on so I can read the name. It's, hopefully I get this right, Aralyn Camp. If you could please state your name and your municipality.
Good evening. My name is Aralyn Camp, and I go to Cherry Hill High School East. I just wanted to speak about the possibility of AP subsidies for high school students who take on a lot of AP courses and, coming the time of May, have a lot of expenses to pay or already paid for. Currently, AP courses are around $97 without tax, and then an extra $40 late fee if you sign up after a certain date in February, like earlier this year. I could forget the exact date, I'm sorry, but this is a huge financial burden on many students, and I've discussed this with many of my classmates, and a lot of us are paying upwards of $600, $700 currently. And we understand that there are current subsidies for students on the free lunch plan and such, but I've discussed with many of my friends how we would definitely feel that the school would benefit from subsidies for students who take on extra AP courses because we believe that they should not be punished for this, but rewarded. And it's definitely feels like we're being like there's a step back and a hindrance from taking these courses, and definitely second guessing from taking the tests. And I believe that it would be best if it was not an idea of how much money it took to take these tests, but just how ready we were, and that this would better reflect our schools as a whole. So I just wanted to come here to say that. Thank you.
Thank you, Erilyn. As I said earlier, we really appreciate especially hearing from students, and it takes a lot of courage to call in and make a comment. So thank you. Okay. Next in the room, if you would kindly state your name and your municipality.
Yes, my name is Amina Ahmed. I'm working with a lot of the Cherry Hill youth at the GCLEA Center here in Cherry Hill. I just wanted to take a moment this evening to express a deep and sincere appreciation from the Muslim community for our acting superintendent, Dr. Morton, for coordinating the understanding ethnic and cultural perspectives training, which we were casually referring to as the Islamophobia training. It truly means a lot to the community and the families, and they are eagerly anticipating the finalization of these plans. And we sincerely hope that it paves the way for greater knowledge and understanding for all students in the district. And after hearing news of the appointment of Ms. Niaz, I just want to congratulate her and express my hope that her perspective will be a benefit to the board, and that she will serve to benefit every student of our district in a meaningful way. Thank you.
Okay, and looks like there's nobody else online, so we go back to the room. If you could please state your full name and your municipality.
My name is Jack Brangan, Cherry Hill. I'm glad that the board member reviewed the board policies and the titles, because I'm here to talk about 5756, which is the transgender law. And it is one that I feel that is not safe. In fact, it can be dangerous. It is not, it is discriminatory, and it is not supportive to several of our students here. For the benefit of some of the board members, this is the policy that would allow a young man who thinks that he's a girl to participate in girl sports. And when you have a situation like that, if you have a situation where a boy feels that way, the answer is not going to be in girls sports. This is one that this particular policy, I sort of look at it as the gone girl policy. Because once you put a male body onto the field of a girls sports, you're putting an individual on the field that has greater lung capacity than the girls, greater bone density than the girls, greater muscle mass in the legs, chest, shoulders, and the neck, that this is very dangerous for the girls. So what I like to do is remind you, about 3 months ago, there was a case in Massachusetts where a boy was on the field hockey team with the girls, and he did a shot on net, hit a girl in the mouth, knocked out all of her teeth, and injured her jaws. 5756 allows this situation to occur. So it is not safe. It is not supportive. This girl that got hurt is the gone girl. She's going to be a gone girl. And so were their teammates. And that's why I sort of look at this as a gone girl. What I'm here to ask is the board to reconsider that is not quite as simple as it looks like on the surface. That this can be very dangerous to the girls on the fields, for the track team, for the swim team, for the girls that don't make the finals. They don't get into the finals where they're in front of the coaches. They have the benefit of scholarships, opportunity for Olympic trials. They're all shut out because you have male swimmers, male track athletes that are pushing these girls out. So I'm asking that you reconsider and maybe repeal this. Vineland School System repealed it 2 weeks ago. Many other districts in New Jersey has done the same. So, thank you.
Okay, we don't have any other hands online, and we go back to the room. If you Could please, anyone would like to speak, state your name, your full name and your municipality.
Hello, Constance Lee again from Collingswood with young grandchildren entering your school district. I wanted to tap into the matter of class ranking that students were talking about. So I'm talking to the students as well as the board here. I very much endorse the students who think we should continue with class ranking, and I think the school is doing you a favor to continue class ranking. I think the school board bends over backwards to accommodate students. And I do want to thank you for your service. That was the line I didn't get to say before. I appreciate your service to our community. You bend over backwards, you accommodate students with the cultural proficiency you started in 2019, the teaching of controversial topics, which I may or may not agree with, doing that. But the point is they're looking out for students. They're trying to prepare you for the real world. The real world in the job market has ranking. That is the bottom line. Anyone that's been in sales knows that you are ranked, you have to get your numbers in, and you can't tell your boss that's not fair. I mean, the real world, this is it. And even if you're not in sales, I mean, I was in sales for a while, did my best to make that 70,000 extra. Guess what? I made 100,000 extra, but there were 7 people in front of me that made more. Was I frustrated? Yes, I was, but this is the real world. And secondly, there are plenty of jobs that are not in sales where you have to make your ranking, you have to bring it in wherever they want, and you are ranked. It's the world. As a senior, you're shy from that job market by a year. And I don't think it's the time to suggest that, well, we don't want to do this now. I really think it needs to stay in place. It's been in place for a lot of years. That's the way the world is. And so I would encourage the school to keep with it. Thank you.
Okay, again, no hands are online. We go back to the room. Please state your full name and municipality.
Rick Short, Cherry Hill. Ms. Sugars, thank you for the bleachers coming in at the middle schools. That's good news. I like to see that. I stand here again asking the same question about DEI. There hasn't been a person that's come up yet and found a district that's done it for 10 years straight and shown academic success. DEI is just ideologies that mean nothing, and one of them is diversity. Cherry Hill has plenty of diversity, ladies and gentlemen, but we don't need to micromanage our diversity and break people into groups. There was a person in the public that once said, who's now a board member, said publicly on a mic, said, Russell Knight is the whitest school district in the district, and that's a problem. It's not a problem for me. It's a problem for some people in this room. I don't know why. I don't have a problem with it. You know, about 2 years ago, I stood here and I said, I quoted President Biden. I said, Dr. Kinde is the biggest lion stone-faced.
Mr. Short, please
yes.
stay on item matters relevant to our public school district. Please make sure you
Okay.
keep your topic to that. Okay. Thank
Okay,
you.
well, you're teaching Dr. Kinde is in the African-American course. So I'm trying to make a comment from 2 years ago that you allowed me to make. 2 years ago, I was allowed to say that, quoting President Biden, Dr. Kinde is the biggest lion stone-faced pony. I did say that publicly 2 years ago. And it comes to show that it sounds like he is after all of his work with the Boston University, $38 million, he poorly only has, he lost half of his staff because he couldn't find enough racism in the world, I guess. You know, all these things, the 6 years of cultural proficiency that we've been focused on, we've totally forgotten about the 3 Rs, the no hate campaign and the district, just more propaganda. Oh, and my favorite, the second graders that have to do a practice protest. I mean, if that isn't the most absurd thing I've ever heard in my life, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what is. And then, you know, I've just come down to this synopsis that by far, Cherry Hill Schools is the biggest race hustling school in America. There is nobody, I say that often, there's nobody that does it like Cherry Hill Schools. So the next question is, what are we going to do with all the stuff that we're not teaching in the African-American course? Right from the mission statement of the African-American course in the national Black, well, I'm going to run out of time here. So I will be back talking more about Black Lives Matter and the misinformation, being sold to the public.
Okay, and we move on to our next public comment. If there's anyone in the room who would like to speak, please approach the podium. Please state your full name and your municipality.
Benjamin Rood, Cherry Hill. I'm feeling inspired by a few of the comments. Let's start positively. I agree that hands-on education is really important. I know having conversations with you all, CT is a major topic amongst the board. That's career and technical education for those in the public. And I have a kid who she asked me once, Dad, do I have to have a smart person job? She probably said that because she has a scientist father and a sister who is just all intellectual all the time. And I told her, no, you don't have to do a smart person job. You do whatever you want. She's very hands-on and wants to be a firefighter. And I'm just so excited that she's sought opportunities in the community to do that. In my own personal experiences, and this relates directly to CTE, I remember making a duffel bag in home ec back in 1989 maybe. And I used that duffel bag to bring my gym clothes all through high school, all through college. It meant a lot to me. It kind of weird thing. I grew up sewing with my mom. I loved shop. I had a family full of woodworkers. I think it's really important that we think about those hands-on skills. In my science lab, if a person comes in looking for a job and tells me that they're really good at biology, I'm like, great, lots of people that want this job are good at biology. If they come in and tell me that they play a musical instrument, I'm like, you have good hands, come work for me, because it's a lot about that. So I really support us thinking about initiatives. I encourage the board to think about initiatives that have lots of hands-on education. There's lots of things in this world that don't require books that are really important and are learning. I want to add, can we have more classes, practice, protest, please? In the First Amendment, in the Bill of Rights, the First Amendment guarantees our right to demonstrate, to protest, to stand up for what we believe in. And I think it's become such a negative thing in our society. People don't respect protests. They don't respect that right, but we have that right to stand up and speak for what we believe in, and teaching children to do that in a civically responsible way. What a great thing. And I do believe that was in reference to a civil rights march and not necessarily a protest as you might expect to see on the news. So I definitely encourage more of that.
Thank you, Dr. Ruth. Okay, and we move on. If there's anyone else who would like to speak, please approach the podium. Please state your full name and municipality.
Alana Yaris, Cherry Hill. Today I received an email telling me that it was time to schedule my child's annual review with a calendar invite of when it was scheduled for. And I responded back asking which child it was for. There was no name included. There are 10,708 students in the district, according to the website. There are 5,212 families in the district. That averages to 2 students per family. 18% are special needs, but if we're averaging 2 students per family, the assumption is when you email me about my student having an IEP meeting that I have more than one student, and it's possible, or more than one child, and it's possible that I have more than one child with an IEP. So I wrote back asking which child it was for. So maybe if the district staff could include a memo or a name of a child or a student ID, just so that when I get an email, I know which of my 5 children it's for that are enrolled in the district, because I have 5 of them in the district. Yesterday, I attended a program at the Cherry Hill Library. They showed the movie Till. I know the story. I was brought to tears watching the movie. I have a lot of questions about when Emmett Till is taught within the district. It's currently Black History Month. I think it's really important that the students learn about Emmett Till and what happened in 1955 because it's 68 years later. And sometimes I feel like I'm watching things that happened in 1955 and it's 2024 within our own district of Cherry Hill. And I want to make sure that students are learning and have their eyes open to everything and everyone that is different than them so that they can learn and be better people when they are adults in the future. And I want to make sure that their needs are met in all ways possible. And if that means that they are gender fluid and present differently than the gender they are assigned at birth, they should be allowed to do that. They should learn about those that are different than them. And they should be able to find that school and everywhere around them is a safe space. If they live at home and it's not a safe space, they should find that safe space. If they go to school and it's not a safe space, they should find that safe space. But I just want to make sure that we're offering a safe space for all of our students within the district. And that includes names and emails to parents, however it is in Genesis, however a student feels that they want to present themselves in school versus to their parents. So thank you and keep up the good work.
Okay. Anybody else would like to speak? Please approach the podium. Please state your full name and municipality.
Dr. Yoni Yaris, Cherry Hill. It's fun we get to do this in person. Usually it's online when we follow each other. I'm a little all over the place, so I apologize as they're not totally connected. Is it possible for us to move the board hearing from April 30th? Passover ends at nearly 9 o'clock that night. And the spirit of the law was that it should be open to everyone when you're now doing the budget hearing in lieu of having a public vote. I'll put out there, I never want to go back to a public vote. Those are terrible times. Having lived through being a student when a board budget has not passed, but I think it is important that the public have a chance to voice their concerns and be part of the process and not being exclusionary of when it occurs. Since it is continuing on budget season, have we looked at expanding the number of special education teachers to allow for full inclusion of social studies courses? We are nearing the implementation of unified standards in the state of New Jersey, which means that instead of having standards for math, standards for science, they're going to be unified in the approach. It already occurs in NJSLA with the research simulated task. And yes, please try training that 10 times fast, where that pulls from science and also pulls from social studies. The students need to be exposed to those types of questionings and processes in their science and history classes in the district. I know that in the district that I am now leaving, that's what our approach was doing, and it made a difference because, for example, speaking of protests, a sample question from not that long ago was a video analysis and 2 articles related to the nonviolent protests of Gandhi and Martin Luther King and the sit-in protests of the cafes in the South. Students need to be exposed to that in class so they can get used to what the state is looking for and learn how to beat the test, not test to the test. Also, if we could block out the budget hearing date for concerts and other events going on so that every community member has an opportunity and is not faced with the choice of going to their child's event or having their concerns heard about the budget. We all care about where our funding is going. As a proud Eastside alumni, it is very disturbing to me to see our community member bashing student writing. I think the community needs to realize that Eastside, and I always forget, the Lions Roar, I'll finally get it right for West, are student newspapers. And we are very embraced the fact that those principals going long ago have not exercised prior review and have allowed student voice to be heard in writing, where there are districts across the country and across New Jersey that have blocked student voices because they didn't want stories being told. And I never want that to be the case in Cherry Hill. If we should, instead of focusing on AP credit, can we start focusing more and more on dual enrollment and dual credit? Dual credit is guaranteed success as long as I believe you get a B or higher in New Jersey. AP, you're going to have gamesmanship across it in all higher education. They want to do everything possible to protect their bottom line, which is if they can figure out a way to stop a student with a 5 of getting credit, they're going to do it because they want to make all the money possible from students. By dual credit, we are guaranteeing they're getting a college transcript. I really recommend reading the book, which I thought I put a note, Shortchanged by Annie Abrams, that tackles just how bad the AP crisis is in this country. And really our emphasis should be on dual enrollment and dual credit. Thanks.
Okay. Any other community members who would like to make public comment? Please approach the podium. Say your full name and municipality.
Ann Einhorn, Cherry Hill, New Jersey. So I'd like to reference a caller earlier about the honors and AP credit for our special ed kids. I brought that up at least a couple of board meetings ago. And I think that's something that this board shortly should indeed consider. They deserve that credit as much as any other student. I heard the discussion about Eureka Math Squared is an old elementary. And if that's the case, and we're moving to more flow in our math programming, why do we have pilot programs in at least 2 of them elementary schools in math? I'd like to know what that's about, because how can we get them all on the same platform? The one name escapes me. I know that Kingston is not, has a pilot program. I kind of had a red flag when earlier it was said we're going to do some smaller group meetings amongst board members concerning the budget. Mr. Green might have to do some advisory capacity on that, because it just raised a red flag for me. We had a hiring fair, but are we going to have a hiring fair to fulfill the positions that we currently have not filled? And we're just adding additional classes to our teachers. And if we can't do it on our own, how about if we partner with another district that maybe have the same issues? It was told to me today, whether it's accurate or not, that the ESY programs are only going to be at East Side schools. I think we need to look into that. It's a big school district. We have children on east and west sides of the town. The other thing I'm going to bring up, by the way, welcome to our new board member. Congratulations. I'm sincerely hoping that after this, we're going to have a 9-member board, because lately we seem to be missing one consistent board member meeting after meeting, not just for the board meetings, but for the committee meetings. And hopefully as the leader, Ms. Stern, that you can speak, or Mr. Green can speak to that board member, because as a community member, I'm insulted. The only thing I'm going to say, and maybe I'm making too much of this, but a West student spoke earlier quite eloquently, and a board member said, thank you so much for the other comprehensive high school. It's called West. Thank you.
Okay, if anybody else would like to make a public comment, please approach the podium. Please state your full name and your municipality.
Matt Ranchezelis, Cherry Hill, me again. So there's a lot of things I could respond to, a lot of interesting comments that were brought up, but I'm going to respond to the class rank comments, the defensive class rank. First of all, it is a lot harder to quantify a student's success than just numbers that, like a salesperson, right? And with a salesperson, you have a set number of how much that person has achieved in terms of their selling. With students, it's far different. Students have a choice in what classes they're taking. And because of that, you can have a student who is more interested in the STEM field or more interested in the social studies field. And it's very difficult to compare those two people based on their strengths and weaknesses in those fields, because they're taking such a different range of courses. Additionally, I think there is a fundamental issue with our current system. In our current system, a student could get 90s in all of their classes and be a valedictorian. Another student could get 99s or 100s in all their classes and then 189. Guess who's going to be ranked higher? The kid with all the 90s is going to be ranked higher. That goes against the sort of system that one person was advocating for, where a person is ranked by their numbers, or like a salesperson. So I think that is a fundamental issue with our current class rank system. And if you are going to advocate for this idea that, oh, we should prepare students for ranking, I don't think that this does that in an adequate manner. And I think it's really a harm rather than a benefit, because we're already being judged with every test score we get, with every in extracurriculars, with every competition we compete in. We don't need this extra like system of ranking that doesn't actually reflect anything true, and just adds stress, and adds like an idea that we need to compete with other students rather than collaborate and help each other attain and become the best people that we can. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody else would like to speak? Please approach the podium. There's nobody at the podium. There's nobody online. I'm going to close public comment. And before we move on to our acting superintendent comments, we're working a lot on communication, trying to really kind of all corners of the earth to improve our communication. And I just want to clarify that it is in fact accurate that the board president is the person who speaks on behalf of the board and is the person who responds to emails when it is appropriate. And there are times when it is not me who responds to emails. There are times when our superintendent, acting superintendent, or other people who are designated on behalf of the acting superintendent to respond to emails. So, I think a lot of you do get my responses when you email me, but if you don't, I want to be very clear that it does not mean that there has been no follow-up or no consideration of the email. It just means that there are other people who are more appropriate to respond and are taking care of that. So just want to be very transparent about that. All right. Moving on to acting superintendent comments.
Thank you, Ms. Stern. I actually have a few comments this evening. First and foremost, thank you to all of our students who spoke tonight about class rank and the stress that it has caused on them. That's a perspective, and that's real to our students. I think it's unfair to the children who are experiencing this and going through this for us to refute what they're telling us. As we move forward, we will explore the conversation. We'll figure out a pathway in terms of moving forward. It isn't necessarily an easy answer. We just come up with a solution tomorrow, but we certainly will engage in the conversation. I'm always so proud to hear the kids speak and to hear them vocalize and to see them display their talent and their excellence. We truly have outstanding children. And there are so many wonderful things that are happening across our schools as it relates to our musicians and athletes and thespians that we saw this evening, scholars. There are some fantastic things that are happening in our schools, and our children are truly amazing. I think it's important for all of us to have an opportunity to take part in activities, to visualize what's happening, and you'll also share the perspective that I have as well. It's critically important for us, and it's a bottom line, non-negotiable piece for us to support all of our students. We absolutely embrace the diversity of our children and what they represent. We absolutely and wholeheartedly ensure that they are included and that they feel that they belong, because they do belong here in our district. So that's essential. There was not a second grade protest that happened in the district. Our children took part in something called the Ruby Bridges Walk to School Day. It's Black History Month this month. So for those who do not know about Ruby Bridges, let me tell you who she was. 1960, Ruby Bridges became the first young lady of African American descent in New Orleans to integrate her elementary school. As she walked into the schools, she did so with what seemed like mobs of people who were adamantly against diversity, inclusion, and belonging. They didn't want her there. But this little 6-year-old girl walked into school every day with people yelling and screaming at her as well. So our children took part in a remembrance of that courage that young lady displayed. And just think about how much more wonderful our schools are with the diversity that is represented. Ruby Bridges Act was key as part of the civil rights movement and ensuring that all people would be included. So that's what our children were taking part of. Very important remembrance and recognition. Just to speak about the AP grant. So the intention of the AP grant truly is to provide training for our teachers in the area of pre-AP. So there's a program called pre-AP that allows us to teach children concepts and strategies that would help to promote their success in AP classes and college and beyond. The beauty of it is that the pre-AP designation is not similar to the way an honors or an AP class works, where it's a singular course that exists. The designation is applied to every level of course that we have. Teachers are trained in the strategies. So the strategies really help them to teach students how to read for evidence, craft sentences that support claims, interpret data, things along those lines. And it's applied to every level. So irrespective of whatever designation a child has and what level they're in. We believe that this is a pathway for creating more opportunity for our children. So when we talk about neurodiverse children, this will eventually give them an opportunity to be able to springboard and to take AP classes at a higher level if that's what they're interested in doing. Climate change. So our climate change grant. So it's part of our district goals. We've established sustainability goals. So our climate change grant, or the application that we're applying for, allows us to further our sustainability goals. So one of the things that we had said is that we would reestablish green teams at every school, and that green teams would have a project that they would work on implementing. So the climate change grant is for approximately $32,000, but what it will do is allow us to establish pollinator gardens at every school across the district. The green teams would be responsible for doing that. We thought that project was done last year at Rosa Middle School. It was a fantastic success. We feel it's something that will allow us to step our foot into the sustainability world, as we also do our sustainability 5-year plan as well. So teacher vacancies, absolutely, it is incumbent on the central administrators, building-based administrators as well, to ensure that our classes are staffed with the highest quality, most outstanding teachers. There was an article in the Philly Inquirer this week that talked about teacher attrition and the loss of teachers, and what we're seeing across not just the state, but across the country as well. Teacher retention, teacher recruitment, very important to us. This is a pivotal time for us. The assignment of additional class periods allows us to establish continuity where students don't have a great disruption. Now, there is a point of critical mass, and I think that's what some of the comments speak to. But we're working diligently. I know Ms. Lieber and her team as well are attempting to be innovative to find ways to increase the pool and ensure that we're not only retaining our teachers, but that we're attracting others into the district, so we can ensure that there's a high quality of instruction that continues to take place. There was a comment about shop classes being offered. So we have a partnership with Camden County Technical Schools. So any student that's interested in taking technical vocational type courses has an opportunity to elect to go to Camden County Technical Schools as well. Our course of study catalog is robust. I mean, we have a number of courses that we offer that we believe are engaging for our students, from the traditional academic courses to design and build, culinary arts, broadcasting, graphic design, computer science, you name it. So there are a number of opportunities for our children as well. This year, we piloted Eureka Math Squared in elementary this year to give us an understanding of nuances as we look for full implementation next year. This is one of the things that we learned when we initially implemented the initial Eureka curriculum. So by having a couple schools go through it and pilot it this year, it gives us a better understanding, so that when we roll to full implementation, we'll be able to do that with full scale without any hindrances. In reference to ESY, so obviously there is a tremendous amount of construction work that's scheduled for this summer. Some of the schools that traditionally would host an ESY program will be under full renovation. So therefore, we need to look for other sites and find other places for the programs. I'll finish with the last two things again. We're excited. This is Black History Month. It's a wonderful time for us to celebrate the contributions and achievements of African-American people in our society. Again, happy Lunar New Year. I believe this is the year of the dragon, right? So congratulations to all. Thank you.
Thank you for so many helpful, understanding, informative comments. Okay, so I know Mrs. Gallagher commented on a 30-minute meeting. We certainly did not hit that mark tonight, but we are at the end, and it is before 9 o'clock. So maybe we should just keep going, because that's unheard of in our history. Okay, just kidding. I make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? Mrs. Winters, all in favor? My motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.